Right. Yeah, I guess because of time, we'll just go ahead and start. The rest can join us. Hi, everyone, everybody on Skype, guys watching us on Twitter, Facebook. Christine, correct me if I'm wrong. There could be guys watching us through, listening in through our website, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, this is yet another session for Asia. We'll be tackling all matters Africa Continental Free Trade Area. We already did a first session. This is our second session. And, we have an amazing panelists, a team of an amazing, an amazing team of panelists from South Africa, one from the UK, and uh, I mean, our usual from Nigeria, Mr. Emeka. So I'll just give each one of them a chance to just introduce themselves, and then we'll dive right into the conversation tonight. Yeah, I guess we'll start with the lady, Nomfazo, and let
Thank you
me know
so
whether I'm
much.
pronouncing your name right.
That's right. That's correct. Thank you so
Awesome.
much. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for logging into this talk. My name is Nomfazwe Matimba. I'm an LLM student majoring in international trade law at the University of East Anglia in the UK. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Taku, do you want to go next?
Yes, I may proceed. Good evening, everyone, or good morning, good afternoon, wherever you tuned in. I am Taku or Takumazire, full name Takudzwa. I am a student, or I'm registered as the LLD student focusing on regional trade in Africa, particularly the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. I'm looking at how we can harmonize RECs, that is the regional economic communities, with this particular agreement to ensure that successful implementation.
Awesome. Thank you for that nice introduction. Over to you, Emeka.
Okay, good evening from here. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Emeka Okeke. I'm a lawyer in Nigeria. I actually work with a judge in the Federal High Court, Abuja here, as a personal legal assistant. So that's basically who I am in summary. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, for those introductions. So maybe let me just give a recap of what you covered last time in the part one of our conversation. So basically, we covered, what Africa Continental Free Trade is, and from that conversation, we know that it is, it was intended to be a single market of goods and services, supported by free movements across Africa. And the aim is really to just boost inter-Africa trade. And we also know that it's likely to boost economic growth and reduce poverty levels within Africa. We also know from that conversation that it was launched, Africa Continental Free Trade Area was launched in July 2019 and was supposed to be implemented in 2020, but due to COVID-19, that has not happened. We also know that during our last, as per the time we were having our discussion last time, that was on, I believe, 27th of August. Only 30 countries out of 54 countries had signed and ratified the agreement, and dropped those instruments with the African Union. We also know that one country, and I think it's Eritrea, had totally not even signed to that agreement. Anyway, that's just a bit of what we discussed. We looked at various challenges, and I guess that's where we picked this conversation. But if you want to get to know more, I believe you can find all this information on our website, 54ishare.com. All the topics that we cover are always posted there. And you can listen in on YouTube, on our YouTube channel as well, to just follow up on the conversations. So for now, tonight we want to cover, issues that arose from that conversation. There were social issues, political, economic issues, and we have a bit, I guess, about an hour to just cover all these areas. Hopefully we will be able to just cover as much as we can. And our panelists are ready. Feel free to ask questions on the chat box. Those on the website, those on Twitter, just feel free to just post on Facebook. Just feel free to post a question, and we'll be able to just respond to that. Our panelists will do the best to respond to it. So I guess the very first thing that we'll be covering will be. There seems to be an echo. I don't know. I can't hear an echo right now, but I had it earlier on. Anyway, I guess let's just dive into the conversation. I guess we'll start with social issues. And the very first thing that we know in Africa, and these are really challenges that are facing, that are potentially facing. I can hear the echo. Someone needs to mute their mic or something. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So these are challenges that could potentially affect the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. There are social issues that arise, and one of them is xenophobia. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly, but yeah, there are a lot of tendencies of that, especially in South Africa. So there seems to be a lot of fights, even within people. Forget even about leaders. If you go, for example, on Twitter, there are always hashtags, for example, in South Africa, where people, are trying to push for locals to get jobs, to be given priority in jobs, and hashtags to keep foreigners away from South Africa and all that. We also know there have been silent issues between TZ and Kenya. So issues like xenophobia could sort of affect the implementation or the actualization of a free trade in Africa, a single market. So, and this is a question I'm posing to the panelists, and probably Taku, given it's from South Africa, should probably answer this. So what are your general thoughts on issues like this, especially? And what needs to change? What attitudes do countries need to change? Are we ready as Africa? What needs to change as individuals, first of all, and what needs to be changed at the country level? Taku, do you mind going?
Thank you. So this is a very interesting area which covers the social aspect of the agreement, of course. But I think it is a major issue. It's not only an occurrence in South Africa, though in the media or the usually cited case is South Africa, which is, I think, one of the major error that we make, because we end up assuming that it is a South African issue, whereby it is an African issue with a deeper with deeper roots. So these attitudes, they are mostly caused by the economic struggles of the citizens in their countries. Perhaps it has to do with how Africa exited or how it got independence, and how it got out of that division and so forth. So I grew up in South Africa, and I've experienced some of the aspects or some of these actions and activities. So I think if countries fix their countries, if countries fix their economic standing, because most of these issues, they are raised by immigration. For example, a country like South Africa, as big as it is, it hosts many refugees, immigrants, and those people are, forgive me for saying those people, they are taking jobs at the expenses of the citizens. Perhaps that is the argument that is brought forth. And the mistakes that we make is that we simply dismiss it as, how is it possible that someone can take jobs from you? you are not qualified, you are lazy, such language that we use, but we don't really focus on the root cause. I think if each and every country try and work on issues of corruption and better management of the economy, I think can greatly reduce it. Interestingly, it is not the reason why I say this is because xenophobia, but it's only Africans that are being attacked. So I think what makes xenophobia an impediment to this agreement is the whole objective of free movement. For it to work, we need free movement. However, allowing full movement causes issues because people from smaller countries would all move to countries with better economies, which then put a strain on the host countries and the cities. So I think, yes, there is a protocol on the movement of free people, but I'm not sure how that will be implemented because even if we argue that free movement of business people, our business is largely informal. So how do we differentiate between a normal person and a business person? So in terms of being ready to change, politically speaking, it appears as if they are ready because there are some campaigns, but I doubt it because there isn't really any work on the ground. Because some of the struggles or wars are silent, like Tanzania and Kenya. So we don't really speak about it openly. So I think that is one of the big issues that we have to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you for that contribution. And you raise very valid points. And one of the things that has caught my attention is the fact that with free movement, people are going to move to better economies. For example, someone is going to move from Comoros to Mauritius, for example. Someone is going to move from Zimbabwe to South Africa. But then again, I mean, then that sort of calls for or poses a big challenge in terms of the implementation of this, like what really needs to be done. And now I'm posing this to you: what needs to be done, in your opinion, to sort of, with already knowing issues like those that you've already mentioned, in which you've really grown up experiencing. So issues like that existing, and also this issue of allowing people to just move across freely. What do you think is the way forward? What would be the way forward for us?
I think the way forward for us would be perhaps it's a controversial suggestion because it is a sovereign right of a nation to control their borders. But to have there is the protocol that I mentioned for the AU to dictate how long a person can, I think it's from Zim to South Africa we get 3 months. So I think if we have a unified system that is controlled by the AU, it would be better. But other
Yeah.
than that, it all comes down to us being serious as Africans to start fixing our countries. Because once we fix our countries, there won't be an issue of refugee, which is the primary cause of the xenophobia events. We'll then have the movement of business people. So if you are running your business, you will visit the country, but it won't be 4 million, it won't be 5 million of you. It will just be you coming to do your business and going back home. In that case now, it means that both countries are benefiting, and not only this so-called superpower that is taking all the capital, be it human or financial. So I
Yeah.
think the solution lies in our leaders making a decision of fixing the countries.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that. So what I'm getting from you is the issue. There needs to be policies to be to be formulated to sort of regulate that. Free movement that is regulated. Exactly. Thank you for that contribution. I mean, the other thing that we see across Africa, again, it's a social issue, is before I go to that issue, by the way, anybody joining us on any of our platforms, kindly, in case you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to just shoot it and we'll ask them as we go through the conversation. Yeah. Now, the other issue is cultural and religious differences that, that are across Africa. For example, we know in Nigeria, there's so many religious differences, not really so many, but we have issues, a section of people who are so many Muslims, and then we have these other religions as well. And then that brings issues. The other cases, Egypt and Liberia, where there is civil war. So the truth is every African country has different cultures, different religions, the different dominant religions. And we know that will sort of affect the way we'll do business. It already affects the way we do business within our own countries. So what do you think, and I want to pose this to Emeka, given you're coming from Nigeria, one of the countries with some of these differences, where, the differences are really visible. So what would you think, what do you think is, how will that impact the single market, and any changes we should be working on, for example, any suggestions you have that maybe countries should be working on, and do you think we're even ready in the first place? Emeka. Emeka, you're on mute.
All right. Thank you. Cultural differences, or you could say tribal differences, it's one major thing that characterizes Africa as a continent, and it's quite painful, or let's put it, yes, painful and really unfortunate also that this thing seems to have so much effect on our policies in a country. Like in Nigeria now, we take decisions based on sentiments, take decisions based on religion, take decisions based on tribalism and all that, and it has an effect in the country itself, particularly Nigeria, for instance. And it's quite a difficult task for a country like Nigeria to grow. Then you take that a step further into the AfTA and all its intent and purposes. It has a strong effect. For instance, now, let me give you an instance. In Jos, for instance, particularly one of the states in Nigeria, it's bedeviled with a lot of religious crisis, where you have the Muslims and the Christians fighting constantly over each other as to who owns the land or who owns the particular space at a given time. Now, let's assume now there are goods coming in from other countries that maybe those countries are predominantly Christians, for instance, or they are trying to trade on goods that are basically for Christians. You have this crisis going on there, and you have this particular religious crisis going on there. There is no way they can trade freely there. It will affect persons who want to trade there. Particularly, for instance, in Jos, let me give an instance. A particular country wants to go into alcohol, and you take it down to the north where they don't tolerate alcohol, for instance. There is no way they can do such a trade. Foreign investments that have to do with alcohol, for instance, can't work in that instant case. So you're not faced with how do you now deal with these issues, and if these issues are not dealt with, it will have a negative effect on foreign direct investment in the country or in Africa as a whole. Now, the way forward, in my terms, is this: you will need a lot of sensitization and education. You would need that because a lot of ignorance it's so much in the country, or particularly so much in Africa, that people are not enlightened enough as to what FTA is all about and what it seeks to benefit the common African in the society. So you need sensitization, especially for instance now you may need a day called African Community Day or African Economic Community Day, whereby you celebrate the AfTA, for instance, that's the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. You may need a day like that where you have to sensitize people through artists, through drama, through culture as to this thing has an effect on Africa. So definitely what I'm trying to say in essence is we need to make Africans know that this thing is for our common good. If we work together, we will achieve a good economy for ourselves. There will be an economic growth in Africa. So we shouldn't see it as a threat to one another, or that this person is actually is trying to bring his culture and overimpose his own culture in our culture and all that and all that. So basically, what I'm trying to say in essence that sensitization will go a long way to see that this does not affect the intent and purpose of AfTA. So thank you.
Nice. Thank you, Emeka. And I'm getting a feeling from your contribution that we are indeed quite far as a continent. We are really far in terms of readiness to actually implement the free trade area. And so, I mean, sensitization is key. Sensitization is key, and I'm getting that from your contribution and education. The suggestion to have a day to sort of just celebrate this. I don't know how practical it would be. You know, imagine Nigeria only has those issues. Imagine how many countries have their own issues. You know, we have a coup that just happened in Mali. We have South Sudan that has issues with Sudan. South Sudan itself has issues within itself. And if you think through the amount of time that it would take, or what African Union really has to do to sort of implement this, they have a huge task to sort of to do policy formulation, and even just bringing Africa together, the 54 nations together, and having them, you know, decide to sort of forge forward. I think we are a long way from that. And it will be interesting to actually see what is going to happen in the coming days. Yeah, thank you for that contribution anyway. At this point, I think we will move. If there are no questions, I can't see questions on the chat box. Yeah, in case there are any questions, Christine, just feel free to just send them my way.
I think we already have the African Agreement Day. I think it's on the 1st of July.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thanks for bringing that up. Africa Agreement Day, and this is to celebrate the free trade agreement.
Yes, and to bring awareness to it.
Yeah. So that's good. That's great. I mean, still the key point remains Africa Union has a very huge task in terms of bringing these countries together, in terms of convincing countries within themselves to put their act together. And, you know, Nigeria is trading as Nigeria. Not that Nigeria has issues already within itself, that goods will not be accepted in certain regions within Nigeria because of, you know, ABCD. Yeah, it's interesting. It's great to know that there is already a day that has been set aside. So I guess we are actually, just like Emeka was contributing, I guess we are headed there. We are closer home, but still yet so far. Yeah, so right now let's switch gears to political issues. And I think on this, we'll just cover immigration, political instability, and rivalry within a neighboring country. And now on immigration across Africa. We know there are countries within Africa that it's easier for you to travel to, say, outside Africa than go to a country, for example. I remember from our past panel discussion, one of the panelists said that it's probably easier for someone to move from Zimbabwe to US than to move from Zimbabwe to South Africa. So, so what are your general thoughts? And I want to pose this question to Nomfazwe. Your general thoughts on immigration challenges that would sort of affect the implementation of this agreement. Nomfazwe, you're on mute. There you go.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Immigration challenges are very much a political issue, you know, because there are so many concerns that the countries want to balance, you know. There's on the one side, you are looking at the countries want to be are concerned about the spread of diseases, which is one thing that we have seen with COVID-19. So many diseases, this disease, people didn't want to cross borders and then they closed their borders.
Yeah.
And then there's the issue of increase in smuggling, illegal immigration, terrorism, and also the issue of xenophobia that Taku mentioned.
Yeah.
And so there are just so many issues going on with immigration. And other than all those challenges that are highlighted, there's also the issue that traveling within Africa seems to be more expensive than traveling outside of Africa. For example, the flight from Kenya to Namibia is the same flight from Kenya to Thailand. Even traveling from Dubai from Nairobi is cheaper than traveling from Dubai to Morocco. So you then realize that there are so many issues as Africans that it's as if we are trying to say we don't want to be one community, we don't want to be part of a global, we don't want regionalization. And with regards to the issue of are we willing to change? In 2013, when the AU asked for the abolishment of the visa requirements, 2 years later, South Africa tightened their visa requirements at the border. Like for a child traveling with one parent, you had to have your birth certificate, so many things, and the consent of the other parent who's not there. There are just so many things that are required. And at the end of the day, you look at it and you realize that there is so much issues of immigration. And it's what you were talking about, like Africa is really not ready for the free trade area, because the way we are treating each other as Africans, it's as if we don't want to open each other's borders. And at the same time, there's another issue, the issue of brain drain. If people from Zimbabwe are all going to be migrating to South Africa, who's going to be left in Zimbabwe to handle the issues, you know? Like this free trade agreement is coming in place, and everyone who knows about trade law is in South Africa. Taku is in South Africa. I go to South Africa, I'm in the UK, you know, everyone is all over the place. And at the end of the day, there's no one left in those countries where people are migrating from. So it's really a question of balancing, but as you said, the AU has a very big job on their hands, because they now have to balance all these issues, you know, to say we want to improve the labor market, economic growth, and public finance. But at the same time, they want to make sure that there's no illegal immigration, there's no smuggling of goods, you know. It's an issue of having to tighten the security. Security at the border has to be tightened, but that's not to say you can't come in. They're just saying, you know, we're going to be stricter with our checking for the goods and whatever that you've got, and to make sure that people who are on the red list are not moving across countries. But at the same time, we are opening borders so that there can be free movement of people to increase everything that we want, because it would even be good for the labor movement, labor to move from Zimbabwe to South Africa to Zambia to Ghana, you know, and we can now be able to fully implement and to gain the benefits of the AfCFTA.
Nice. Again, back to issues of policy making. I mean, I'm just thinking, for just as you were sharing, what it would take to have ministers from all these countries sit down, or presidents, or whatever leaders for each country just sit down and agree on laws to sort of regulate this. And you said, it's funny how you said South Africa sort of just tightening the visa regulations 2 years after Africa Union sort of, and that will just show you how far we are from this. I mean, how far we are from actually really getting this to work. What would it take to get these countries to come together to agree to form regulations that would benefit all countries? What would it take to have these countries change attitudes and how they actually look at this, so that we look at it as we go in the next discussion. We look at economic issues so that we are not sort of just being selfish to our own and just looking at our own interests, but sort of just being open to allow, businesses across. Yeah, thank you for that contribution. So I guess the next is political instability within countries, and political stability sort of affects business environment. We know, for example, Mali recently just had a coup. Countries like Egypt, Zimbabwe, they have
Yes.
issues in terms of political instability. Kenya itself, I wouldn't say we are so good. We have our own issues as well. So, I mean, how much political stability is needed in each country to advance these agreements? And our country is really willing. It's just the same thing as immigration rules and policies. Our country is even willing really to actually just, make rules that would sort of benefit all of us. So in terms of political stability, our country is willing to sit down and, put their act together within themselves and forge forward as a country. Yeah. Emeka, oh, sorry, we're just going to pose this to Emeka. Emeka, go ahead.
Okay. So basically now, if you're to talk about the situation as it is now, we're going to be talking about Africa's political will to handling this issue. Okay, and it's very, very important. You can't take away that in situations like this. We need to understand that African leaders have to have the strength and see the need for them to work. It's not a matter of who is superior or who is not superior, or who is going to block his borders for this particular person in order to show off one thing or the other. What we have to understand here is that there is an economic challenge in African continent as a whole. There's an economic challenge. So what do we have to do about it? We have to what? Come together, work together, see the need to work together in order to achieve this particular goal. Now, the idea of, for instance, now what Manfred was saying, the idea of you trying to say that we are going to be blocking your borders against the other person, it's not an ideal situation for this particular FTA to work. It's not an ideal situation like that. So you have to work, understand that we have to come together to make this thing work. And in all fairness, what is happening in Africa as a whole just gives you a little bit of a concern as to whether this thing can actually work. For instance, now there is coup in Mali. How many persons will want to come and invest there? It's not going to be possible. You shouldn't be expecting people to bring in their funds into a country where there is coup. Or is it in what they call it in Nigeria, for instance, where Boko Haram is ravaging the whole situation? It's not possible. Or you're talking about Zimbabwe, for instance, now currently, whereby I was discussing with first way now that there is an idea whereby people are preferring the Mugabe era than the current era. That is that's not an ideal situation whereby you expect people to be thinking of, okay, how do we take advantage of the FTA? No. What should be expected of us as Africans is that we should understand the need for this. We have to really understand the need for this. That it's not a matter of whether we have to show superiority, that no, we stand to lose, and we stand to lose in this, and the other party stands to gain more from this. For instance, Nigeria will tell you and will tell you something like, no, we will not allow you to come in because you're going to take advantage of our market. We won't do that. So it's not a matter of that. We have to understand that there is a need to be stability in the system for people to enjoy FTA as a whole. So that's what I have to say in a nutshell. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you raise a point of on political will. I believe this is Taku. Taku asks a very interesting question. Yeah, is there a need for us to redesign our political system? Because some of these issues actually they are as a result of our elections. People having issues with their election results, and what he calls the European version of democracy. Taku, do you want to clarify that or explain that further, just before Emeka responds?
Yes, certainly. I think after the independence, we copied everything from our previous colonizers. So whatever that is going on in Africa is as a result of whatever systems that we are following. If we redesign the systems, certainly we can overcome some of the challenges that we make.
Yeah.
We took a system that is defects. And once we took those defects, once we took those systems, we adopted their defects. And that is why each and every country has issues with political stability, be it Nigeria, be it Kenya, be it Zimbabwe, or even South Africa. So it says that it has nothing to do with us being African, but the systems that we are following. For example, if you look at China, they redesigned their whole democracy system. That means though it may appear as a dictatorship, there is a form of election or consultation at a lower level.
Yeah.
And that is why you see we end up preferring Mugabe as opposed to anyone because he had a hard hand. He was
Yeah.
able to, for example, the Zimbabwean political instability was external, not necessarily internal.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
Rwanda, for example, is a good
Mhm.
example of a hard hand and it's working perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. So Emeka, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, basically, I think Taco has got quite a number of things I really like and all that. See, when you talk about political instability, now the issue here is political stability in the country. Now,
Mhm.
if that is a problem, what are the African countries doing about this? There is this thing about African leaders trying to hold on to power no matter what, as if it's something that this is something that they have to stay there for the rest of the life. They don't understand that this is a particular section or this is a particular period whereby if you don't deal with it, if you don't handle that particular period of a political time, it will have a negative effect subsequently in future. Take for instance now, in currently in Mali now, the crisis in Mali now is such that no person is contemplating any economic activity there. Even though currently I heard that they've lifted the sanctions in Mali and all that, but as much as that is the case, the uncertainty about that particular place makes it difficult for someone to contemplate whether doing an investment there now. Okay, now if there's a transition program going or a transition government going to happen, there's going to happen there. Now, how are we sure that these persons who will go into power won't want to reclaim power and cause more havoc? The uncertainty in the political system in the country there is making things absolutely very difficult as it is now. Now, you take, for instance, Nigeria. I was mentioning earlier on Nigeria. In the north now, you cannot take out investments in the north. If you're doing that as it is now, you're putting yourself at risk. Boko Haram, for instance, Nigerian army came and will say something like, for instance, oh, we have actually killed the head of Boko Haram. He's actually dead and buried and all that. The next day, what you are hearing is the person has woke up one morning and say, me dead? I'm not dead, I'm here. No, what are we saying? How do you want to invest in a country whereby the political system or the particular political system of that country cannot deal with the current issues there?
Yeah.
Let me even give you a shocker. Recently, a former deputy governor of Central Bank made a serious allegation. He said something. He said that one of the northern governors is sponsoring Boko Haram. He made that statement in and 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 then you be asking yourself, what will make someone make that kind of, it means that there's some element of truth in it. And they are telling the government, and Nigerian is saying that no, that he's dead and buried. They have covered the whole place, they have recovered territories and all those things. So with this instability and lack of political will, it makes it extremely difficult for FTA as a whole to work. And there is no way, there is no reasonable man that wants to come and waste his money in a country that is left uncertainty. So every businessman or every person that wants to come and invest in a country will definitely need stability for it to for its business to strive. So in countries like Nigeria, for instance, where the political stability is uncertain, there is nowhere anybody can come in there. Talking about Zimbabwe earlier on, talking about Mali, talking about Sudan, the extremism in terrorism there is so bad that you don't want to try that. So that is why there is a need for what stability for any of for the objectives of AfTA to come into place. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
You know what worries me more is these people who do not have political will to even make their own countries better are the same people who will head African Union. So, I mean, we are in such a big problem where those leaders who probably maybe even care for themselves, leaders who would care less on maybe prosperity of Africa as a continent, leave alone their own country. Those are the same people leading the African Union, for example. So we have big problems that how we be able to solve this here. Yeah. Somebody talking? Okay. So thank you for those contributions. Yeah. So I guess the other thing remaining is rivalry with neighboring countries. We know, for example, Ethiopia and Eritrea, they never used to see eye to eye until the current prime minister came in, the current Ethiopian prime minister. But even still, as they try to still work out their issues, even still right now, they're still not 100% okay with each other. Kenya and TZ, recently Tanzania banned Kenyan flights to go to Kenya, to Tanzania. And there's so many issues that are normally just arising between countries. I believe there are more countries where there are issues between neighbors, and it's normally, I guess, political rivalry. Who's the big boy? Who's the small one? And so there's a whole attitude issue. What needs to change? Are countries, willing to do this? Are countries willing to change? Are we willing to put down our own, egos and agree to be a one thing? The way, sorry to bring him up, but the guy for Libya, I don't want to mention his name, previous president of Libya, he had this vision for Africa to become one. So we actually willing to put our own egos as countries, individual countries, to sort of just come together and, and this, I'll just pose this question to Taku.
Thank you. So political rivalries, I would say the difference in political ideology, right?
Yeah.
And after I will always refer back to where we started. After we got our independence, we got independence primarily because of Cold War, because our masters were fighting amongst themselves.
Yeah.
So some went for socialism, some went for capitalism. Other factors also varies from historical tribal issues.
Yeah.
You see, so those issues are amongst us. We see it in the political arena, in our homes, in our communities and societies. So it's a very difficult question to understand how we can solve that issue. But I think one of the best solution is if we focus on economic prosperity. There won't be a need for certain tribes to want a division. For example, in Nigeria, I think the reason why I'm referring to that is it's still political issues, though within one country. Some tribes might want to separate because they feel like they are being sidelined. You see, Ethiopia and Eritrea, it has to do with the war that they had. I'm not too sure about. Let me use the word beef that they have, but
Yeah.
because they once fought a war, they can't get along unless maybe they are separate. For example, right now with Cameroon, we have the French side, we have the English side. They are fighting. Maybe they might also want So one separation, we have I think Biafra in Nigeria, they're also talking about the same thing. So I wouldn't say it is cause a major concern for the African continent of the free trade agreement. This is because we are going to have fights. We can never solve it because primarily the whole thing is led by politicians, and politicians capitalize on anything. So if Kenya does something, Tanzania will respond. It's just like
Yeah.
that. We can only try and have a rule-based mechanism under the umbrella of the EU to try and solve some of these issues. For example, if Kenya and Tanzania have disputes, they should go to the AU, or there should be a mechanism and a rule-based mechanism under the EU, sorry, AU, that this is what we're going to do. Let's mediate, let's go into arbitration, let's solve the issue. You see, currently we don't have that. We are just playing cat and mouse. So I think that is one of the major problems. So the solution for me would be a creation of a mechanism at the AU level, and also they should not be shy to impose sanctions like what ECOWAS does. ECOWAS, whatever happens, sanctions, they don't play. But AU, it appears as if they don't have enough power to control the countries.
Yeah, thank you so much, Taku. And what I'm getting is, first of all, as a continent, just focusing on economic prosperity and all, and not all these other sideshows, and AU stepping up to be the big boy, and implementing, having a policies and mechanisms for conflict resolutions, and just having rules that sort of just govern how countries relate. And you've pointed out a good example, like how ECOWAS does by implementing sanctions and all that. There is something that is common tonight, and I just want to point it out. It's a common theme that I've seen from everything we've been sharing, and this just stops with AU, and AU needs to step up and form rules that govern countries, not just within the trade in itself, but to sort of step up and be a strong force that can unite African countries together. I know there are sort of systemic changes that sort of need to happen within each country, from sensitizing their own citizens to come together. And I just want to, before I even move to the next economic issues, I want to pose this to push this back to the panelists. And Nomfazwe, probably, in case you have anything to just add to this, in terms of politics across Africa, and all the issue in AU. Anything to just add?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you, Nomfazwe. Yeah, Nomfazwe seems to have network issues.
Hello.
But yeah, we can hear you now.
As Taku was saying, the success of the AfTA is really dependent on the political stability of the countries. I was just thinking randomly of the EU. They have so many differences within EU. Some of them are, they are very different religiously, culturally, but you realize that they managed to come together under one band. And it's because of the role that the EU, the governing body, took. You realize that they've got laws that cater for all of the EU countries. And it's not just about, one single country and all that. And I believe if this AfTA is going to be successful, we have to start, the AU has to work towards that, to put laws in place, rules in place that are going to govern, so that every member state that is contracting, that is signing to the AfTA, is also will also be liable under certain rules and laws if they breach them. Because if in the event we don't have laws that are going to govern us with regards to politics, even the economy, even dispute settlements, even if we don't have those laws, we're just going to have an agreement that's on one side, and then we are going to have different laws from people's different countries, and there's not going to be harmony. And where there's no harmony, there's just going to be chaos. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. You bring in a good comparison of EU. And yeah, I have actually just never thought about it. They actually have so many differences. They even have one currency. And much as the countries have their own currencies, the euro still operates, you know. Yeah, so it's a whole thing that Africans we can borrow from them. The AU can borrow a lot from the EU. Again, I don't know how willing we are to do that. That would be the issue. I don't know how willing we are to do the borrowing. I mean, and just trying to sort of focus on the excellence or success of the African continent as a whole. Anyway, that's a good point. It's a good place to sort of just push us to the next, and this should be our last section. We'll probably do this very fast. I know we have 4 minutes to finish. Wow, these questions are quite a lot. Um, yeah, yeah. But anyway, let's just see where we can go. We could cover a few things on the economic issues within I mean, that so can affect our single market. And yeah, we'll just stop at some point, maybe probably in the next 10 minutes or so. Yeah, so we've talked of, EU having one currency, and, them having differences, but still being able to operate. But then in Africa, we have countries where, there is economic protectionism, and that is, it's basically me trying to just guard my own country and just make sure that I'm excelling, my country is excelling, my domestic industries are excelling, and not allowing anybody else to come in and, also have them excel by trading with us. So countries need to sort of change this, and I just want to throw this to Taku to just give a comment on what African countries need to do in terms of, changing that protectionism attitude and tendencies to just see what we actually could do as a continent in the various countries to just ensure the success of this. I wish African Union was on this call. How about you, Taku?
Okay, let me answer this one quickly. So
Yeah.
I think it's a case of it's an essential selfishness of survival.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, each and every country is responsible for the economic development, growth of its country, of its people, and so
Yeah.
forth. It
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's also a question of sovereignty. So that you have to do whatever to survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is going to happen. For example, where you get
Mm-hmm.
stronger countries in each region, South
Mm-hmm.
Africa, Kenya, Nigeria. I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
about the north, maybe Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
Those countries dominate the smaller ones, and perhaps we focus too much on the benefits of the agreement, but we don't look at the negative impacts, which are quite significant. Nomfa, as we referred to the EU, we have to look at what caused the Brexit. We
Mm-hmm.
cannot, that should form
Mm,
um, essential case, because you said we can copy, but all our regional integration efforts were almost cut and paste from the EU because we assume that it is so called is a perfect path,
Yeah.
perfect model, whereby it's not. Also, the idea of Pan-Africanism forces us to have 55 countries. Whatever that we do, we want everyone on board. That's
Mm-hmm.
not how the EU done it. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think there are maybe 22 countries, or not sure, but not all the European countries are part of the EU. So
Yeah.
if we're going to say we're going to have this AfTA, the African agreement, let us put people that want to be part of it. If it's 10 countries, let it be 10 countries.
Yeah.
Then we make it work. So that
Yeah.
whoever that is inspired by the well functioning of the agreement can join at a later stage. But we cannot achieve anything if you want to have everyone on board. So I think having to put people that are willing to be part of it will greatly reduce these protectionist tendencies.
I like that. Starting with a few, those that are willing, and watch it excel, and have people just have other countries see it excel, and opt to join based on what they see, and that's a good way to look at it. But I want to go back to the issue of common currency, and this is where I'm bringing in Emeka. And by the way, thank you for bringing in the lesson of Brexit. I guess it's part of the lessons we need to learn as well from Brexit. But really, it's to if I'd comment on that, is to actually just develop solutions that are fit for Africa. The same way Japan, for example, has never been colonized by anyone, but they have uh, but they correct me if I'm wrong on that, but they have a wonderful system and the country excels. They sort of have this traditional way of doing things that has sort of pushed them to really high standards globally. So just developing solutions that are actually fit for our own as Africans. And now, Emeka, over to you now. The issue of common currency. We have Acoin, for example, by our god musician Ekon. Is it maybe now is it time to think of a common currency? And I really agree to the approach that Taku just mentioned of just starting with those who are willing. If it's the 30 that have ratified, maybe just starting with those. So do you think common currency is really needed right now?
Well,
Is it something that
it
smart
depends. Yeah, common currency will actually make things quite easy and beautiful. There is no gainsaying about that fact. You will not want to trade in another country, and you have to go as far as, okay, changing from this one to this one and this one and to this one. To even shock you, most African currency can't be changed in another African currency.
Yeah,
That's how bad it is. You can't
yeah,
change that currency, and it's so pathetic. And so when you see this lack of value for another currency, the ultimate goal will be there should be common currency. But again, when you talk about currency is not just something you could just easily do. It takes a lot of political will to get that thing done. First of all, you have to talk about the monetary policies, physical policies, and all that. So you have to put in this into place. And for that to work, there has to be, let me put it this way, 90% level of integration in Africa for that to actually work. So if we, as it is now, we still have this disparity among us. For instance, now, um, Equatorial Guinea now is blocking, in short, is building barricades now, saying that, you know what, we don't want immigrants into our country. Or you'll be talking about Nigeria, for instance, telling you that, you know what, Ghana, for disturbing Nigerians who are trading in your state, we are going to take actions against you. Or you're going to be talking about certain countries who are, for instance, okay, Nigeria and Benin now said, okay, you know what? Don't import your goods to us. We don't want it. We are contented. And all these things you see them. So where do you see common currency come into play? Which mindset will the politicians come and say, okay, how common currency? Because common currency as it is, it is a very peculiar tax. It's not something you could just easily do. So you have to have what, some level of integration existing for that to come into place. And although there is this bank called Afrizim Bank currently, which is working on assiduously to see that there is what we call payment plan, whereby if you pay through this particular through its platform, they can easily convert it for you to buy goods in other countries. It's a good thing for them to do, but it takes a lot to achieve that. And honestly speaking, we could achieve that, but seriously, like this now, there's a long way to go. And honestly, although there is this issue of cryptocurrency, bitcoins, and all that. Yes, it's a good idea. No concern about it. But some countries like Nigeria, for instance, have warned its citizens time and time again that cryptocurrency is not regulated. Do not use it. There is no regulation as to cryptocurrency. So you cannot say, okay, we want to use cryptocurrency to see that we can trade with African countries. It can't work because countries are yet to understand the workings of cryptocurrency. So it is a good thing for us to have common currency, but whether we are going to get there anytime soon, let's first of all see whether we can trade among ourselves first through having exchange of goods and services for now before we can now say, okay, we should now have a common currency, because that takes a lot of political will. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's a good place. You just mentioned that we could sort of just trade among ourselves with what we have and see whether it works. And Tak brings in on the comment section, he brings in a similar point, and I just want to throw this to him to just expand on that point that he's trying to raise on the comment section. If you don't mind, Tak, do you mind just going ahead and just I want you to go on record.
Okay, thank you. So there's an argument that because the main objective is to establish the African Economic Community. I think it is the Lagos Protocol.
Yeah.
So if ECOWAS has a common currency, SADC has a common currency, at least we can work with that. And then level by level, instead of just saying, let us have one currency out of the blue. There is the Rand Union that is functioning very well, but it is mostly countries that were controlled by South Africa. And it's a perfect example for us to look at.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks for bringing that up, Taku. Yeah, now I want us to switch gears, and I want to bring in Nomfazwe. So in all our countries within Africa, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has recently found out that a majority of the African economy is actually made up of the informal sector, that is the unregistered businesses, the small ones, the medium and small, the small and medium-sized enterprises. So does a free trade expose these businesses to extreme competition? And in view of that, is now that single market or the liberalization of that trade across Africa, is it ripe? Is it the right time for it? Nomfazo.
Okay, thank you so much, Emmanuel. Informal economy makes up the majority of the entire African economy. And I'll say this for Zimbabwe, over 60% of our GDP is coming from SMEs, small medium enterprises, and some of the informal businesses. And I think it is safe to say that since COVID-19, the informal economy has grown. It has just grown over and beyond. So I believe the AfTA will is a threat to these small businesses because there's going to be extreme competition. Let me give an example. You have a small farmer in Zimbabwe who is doing their maize, their potatoes, and the cost that they have to incur to take from planting right to the end process to taking it to the market. There are so many, and then you've got a high-end company in South Africa that's got all the mobile equipment, and they are doing economies of scale and everything. And so at the end of the day, you realize that this farmer in Zimbabwe goes through so many costs to be able to bring the food to the market, whereas these ones, they can spread their costs over a very large scale of the products that they do. And on top of that, other than that, the standards that are going to be produced by this small farmer versus this high-end company are going to be very different, and other companies are going to prefer those who are going to be buying are going to prefer the higher standards, according to the ISO. So you realize that there is just so much competition for the small businesses in regards to the AfCFTA, because they don't have the capability to transcend into the era. And that brings us to the question whether Africa is ripe for trade liberalization. Bluntly, we are not ready. To say bluntly. But I believe if we manage to put the legal infrastructure to integrate our small, medium enterprises, to implement the World Trade Organization Trade Facilitation Agreement, and bring all those policies together in one place, we can be at a better place than where we are at right now. Because right now, if we are going to put the open market in freely, there are going to be some losers from the agreement. Someone says the AfTA has winners and losers, and the small economies will be the losers because they cannot compete with the high-end economies like South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Egypt. So there's that risk. Yeah, thank you.
But now I think because of time, we're just going to stop there. And thank you for bringing that issue up. And I guess just if I'm to summarize some of what you've just said is putting together the legal infrastructure, the legal mechanisms to just see this go forward. And it's a thing that requires a lot of what we've been talking about tonight, the political will, the focusing on economic prosperity, putting individual country benefits aside, and just focusing on what this could do as a whole to us. That being said, there are the negative sides of it as well, just like Taku said. But then I just want to now at this point just throw this back to you panelists, in case someone has to. I saw Taku typing. In case you have something to just add to what Nomfazo just said, you could comment on that. And then I'll give you a chance to just say something to wind it up. Africa Continental Free Trade Area is such a huge topic. I actually even feel like we should probably just do a letter to AU to just have them, we've been having these conversations and these are our findings. These are some of the discussions we've been having. They could somehow, they should know there are people who are taking this seriously. Anyway, over to you, Taku. Comment on what Nomfazo said, and then we can have each panelist just give their final thoughts before we close.
Yes, I wanted to comment that there are advantages and disadvantages to the state of the SMEs.
Yeah.
If we get sufficient government support and force maybe joint ventures between the so-called big South African countries and small SMEs, we could potentially grow those small businesses into global companies. And that is really what we want to achieve, because we will then enter into joint ventures with the big guys so we can get technology transfers, management knowledge. I think the benefits are endless, but we need to be able to properly manage them. Because in Zimbabwe, for example, if we control the ownership of land, there's no way that they can overtake the small guys.
Yeah.
But we do need government willingness to help the small businesses and force them to have joint ventures.
Thank you, Taku. So I think just because of time, I think we just need to finish this in the next 2 minutes or so. I don't want to keep you here for a long time as well. It's been 1 hour, about 15 minutes already. Now, I just want to give each of you 1 minute to just share your final thoughts, and then we can close.
Okay, I'll go first.
I like that.
I just want to say that the initial stage, everything, whatever you do in life, the initial stage is going to be tough. So the initial stage of this agreement, there are going to be losses, true, But then in the long run, there are so many benefits that we can reap from this. And one of the good moves that we can see from this agreement is that there's differential treatment. They're not saying everyone, we're going to say 90% of tariffs to everyone, but those least developed countries, they're going to take time so that they can ease into the flow of the open market and the liberalization of trade. And then we can be able to merge together as one. So I just think it's a matter of taking it in at the moment and then living with it for a while. And then as time goes on, as it transcends, we can be able to see the benefits. For example, the SMEs will grow into bigger companies and all that. And that takes time. That's not going to happen the day the AfTA is going to be said, it's now implemented, it's now in place, you can now start trading under it. No, but that will take time. And we have to be patient and we have to be willing to work through it so that if we don't see results within a year, we're not going to say, this instrument is useless and then throw it away. But we're going to have to work towards it and wait until it's actually fully implemented. And then we can start saying, okay, this is beneficial. Let's work towards becoming better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow. Nice. Final.
Okay, yes, and final thought, just to say one or two things. Basically, I must commend Africans, African leaders, basically for doing this. Actually, it's a good thing they are thinking towards African unionism and all that. And it's for them to have possibly rectified it shows a long political will. But aside that, please, we should also understand that as much as we have signed and all this, it takes when it comes to the practical aspect of it, we have to understand that it's an important thing for Africa. Africa, as it is now, has not survived well. Poverty is everywhere, infrastructure decays everywhere, everything. So this, after, when you look at it from an holistic aspect of it or from a positive angle of it, we will see that we'll benefit from it. And let's all just work hard and get this thing done. It's long overdue. The forefathers had visions there for a long time. Inquiry start this vision out. So we should definitely get this thing done so that we can all benefit from it. So the crisis will reduce. When we have economic power, I can tell you, the idle minds in the country or in the society won't have a hold on them. So definitely they'll be working hard, and they won't be distracted by all these security issues and recruitment by terrorism and all that. Fade away, basically. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emeka, for that ending. Now over to you, Taku. You're on mute.
So thank you. In conclusion, to sum up, I would submit that there is a need to include the youth, there is a need to include the public, and not necessarily making it a political process. I think the bottom-up approach is good, including the regional economic communities, and not only meeting Addis Ababa. I also submit that our leaders should approach the implementation process with the same enthusiasm that they had when they were signing up for the agreement. As many challenges as it poses, I think whether it's successful or whether it's a failure, it will put us in a better place.
Yeah. Wonderful contributions, guys. And thank you so much for the amazing contributions and sparing the time to, join on this conversation. And I would say, the key thing from tonight for me is Africa Union needs to step up. It really needs to step up. It needs to guide countries in policy formulation. It needs to, all these issues that will arise from social, political, and economic issues. If African Union sort of sets up frameworks of how to tackle all these issues, I believe the countries that are willing, and I like that actually Taku brought that up, the countries that are willing can be able to just, come on board and have this thing rolling, have this thing started and being implemented with those few countries that should be willing. So African Union really needs to step up and be the big boy here. And I dare say, Christine, we should sort of just do a letter to Addis Ababa, include all the links of these conversations we've been having. Maybe they borrow a few lessons here and there.
Possibly, maybe I'll start. We can start by tagging them on Twitter. You know what? Whichever Twitter page on social media. Just whenever we have this discussion, just tweet at Africa Union. But this is such a good discussion. I mean, I think the points that have been raised are, I mean, I think they are tweetable quotes, which we have tweeted as the quotes they are, and the wisdom that there is. Like, there's so much that has been said. And thank you so much for everyone, for you guys who have joined in the discussion, and for everyone who has joined in the discussion online on either of the platforms. And today I think we have covered quite a bit on like the social issues, the economic issues, and the political issues. The discussion on Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement and trade area, I don't think it can be exhausted. There will be something else that will come up for discussion maybe in the next month. But let's just keep the conversation going. Emeka, we will invite you again. Nomfazwe, we will do that again, and Taku, and to just keep the discussion going. And and Emmanuel, you've got this. Thank you so much for moderating. It's been amazing. So if Emmanuel, you're happy to end this, I am happy, and thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot. I mean, we can now allow Emeka to go home. He's been working from the office. Emeka, you can now go home. I believe right now it should be 7.
Yeah, so like 6. Yeah, that's almost 6:51. 6:51.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Taku. It's amazing to actually even get to know you guys and just make friends from different countries. Let's keep this conversation going. We'll probably just definitely have more of these talks going on. God bless you so much. Have a good night. I believe all of us.
I really appreciate this.
Yeah. See you guys.
Goodbye.